I'd never seen a horror film. And I'm not a fan because I just get too impacted by that kind of imagery. I can't do it. I can't go there. I actually got into acting because I needed to make money. I was a modern dancer, and I graduated from school, from NYU, and I was performing with a modern dance company, the Beverly Brown Dance Ensemble. Beverly Brown had been a soloist with Eric Hawkins. If you're in a modern dance world, these names mean something to you. And I wasn't making any money, so a photographer mentioned to me that I could probably make money doing commercials. The first audition they sent me to, I got the job. And then, the second or third, I got another job right away. So I got Taft-Hartley into SAG. Like the whole thing was just kind of, I needed to make some money, and this was working. And I loved it. I mean, it was all the skills. I mean, when I had to think, okay, how am I going to make money? I can sing, dance, and act. I mean, these are my skills. So I needed to do something in that arena that paid me. I remember the first time I did a pilot, and I got flown to LA, and I had my own dressing room, and I mean, I got the check. I was just jumping up and down on the bed. It was like the best.
Oh, Tiger, stop that. Sometimes he really scares me.
Everyone on the cast was sort of kind of green, and let's put on a show, right? There was no big, no one had a lot of experience. And so from that perspective, it was kind of nice. We were sort of all in it together. And there we were in North Tonawanda where there wasn't much to do. So everybody made friends, and everybody pretty much, tried to work together and pitch in. And Bob and Harvey were kind of just like, us. They did make arrangements because they were still concert promoters at the time. And there was a George Benson concert that they had organized in Albany, which was an hour or so away. So our big Saturday night one night was driving to Albany and going to the George Benson concert because Harvey and Bob had gotten us all tickets, and we got to go out backstage and meet George afterwards. That was the big event. Otherwise, there was a roller skating rink. That was it. Tony Malum, the director, was a terrific guy, really. Easy and helpful, and trying to sort of work with everybody and make it all work. That's what I remember about him mostly. He did have me, when we do the scene where I find, I can't remember what the character's name was, but Fisher Stevens' character when he's been mutilated, and his head actually comes from under the water on the raft, but I didn't see any of that in the preparations or anything. So they made sure that they could create as much of a surprise for people as possible. So I didn't see any of that while it was all, and that was a lot of preparation and a lot of special effects and but even while they were building the head and working with Fisher and, and all of that was happening along the way till we got to that scene, I didn't see any of it, so I'd be really surprised.
Where did you learn how to build a raft?
Raft building in the Boy Scouts.
Thank God for the Boy Scouts.
I think that there were a couple of times, and I can't tell you the exact scene, but there were a couple of times where either we were losing the light or something had to be adapted because we weren't going to make our schedule. And so we couldn't go just by what was in the script, Tony and Harvey, and they'd be scrambling to try to make something work within the time that we had. And that was the only time it got more difficult because there was that sense of what are we all doing, right? And how are we going to get this done? Because, the on time, on budget thing was crucial. It wasn't like there was a cushion. So I think that was the only thing that was hard. I mean, the horror scenes, all that, they weren't hard, as you just commit to it. So I don't see one as being harder than the other. Once you prepare for it and you commit to it, there's almost for me as an actor, there's the joy in finally getting to actually express it, right? After you do your homework and preparation, then it's there's this flow through that always feels really good, no matter what the scene is. So I think it was hardest when there was either indecision or scrambling. And that happened a couple of times. It was the first lead in a movie that I had. So it was a great way for me, right, low-budget horror film, how to carry a movie, and, you know, just not feel like there were super high stakes. Not that I would have probably known the difference, but I think the fact that we were all just sort of young and doing this for the first time, it's really interesting how it has that, like, first time, right, we're really in this together. It's not slick at all, and there's an appeal, right? It feels real and raw. On the raft, but I didn't see any of that in the preparations or anything. So they made sure that they could create as much of a surprise for people as possible. So I didn't see any of that while it was all, and that was a lot of preparation and a lot of special effects and a huge, but even while they were building the head and working with Fisher and, you know, and all of that was happening along the way till we got to that scene, I didn't see any of it, so I'd be really surprised.
Where'd you learn how to build a raft?
Raft building in the Boy Scouts.
Thank God for the Boy Scouts.
You know, I think that there were a couple of times, and I can't tell you the exact scene, but there were a couple of times where either we were losing the light or something had to be adapted because we weren't going to make our schedule. And so we couldn't go just by what was in the script, like Tony and Harvey, and they'd be scrambling to try to make something work within the time that we had. And that was the only time it got more difficult because there was that sense of like, what are we all doing, right? And how are we going to get this done? Because, you know, the on time, on budget thing was crucial. It wasn't like there was a cushion. So I think that was the only thing that was hard. I mean, the horror scenes, all that, they weren't hard, you know, as you just commit to it. So I don't see one as being harder than the other. Once you prepare for it and you commit to it, you know, there's almost like, for me as an actor, there's the joy in finally getting to actually express it, right? After you do your homework and preparation, then it's like there's this flow through that always feels really good, no matter what the scene is. So I think it was hardest when there was either indecision or scrambling, and that happened a couple of times. It was the first lead in a movie that I had. So it was a great way for me, right, low-budget horror film, how to carry a movie, and, you know, just not feel like there were super high stakes. Not that I would have probably known the difference, but I think the fact that we were all just sort of young and doing this for the first time, it's really interesting how it has that, like, first time, right, we're really in this together. It's not slick at all, and there's an appeal, right? It feels real and raw. Is a terrific guy, really easy and helpful, and, you know, tries to sort of like work with everybody and make it all work. That's what I remember about him mostly. He did have me when we do the scene where I find I can't remember what the character's name was, but Fisher Stevens' character when he's been mutilated, and his head actually like comes from under the water. on the raft, but I didn't see any of that in the preparations or anything. So they made sure that they could create as much of a surprise for people as possible. So I didn't see any of that while it was all, and that was a lot of preparation and a lot of special effects and a huge, but even while they were building the head and working with Fisher and, and all of that was happening along the way till we got to that scene, I didn't see any of it, so I'd be really surprised.
Where did you learn how to build a raft?
Raft building in the Boy Scouts.
Thank God for the Boy Scouts.
I think that there were a couple of times, and I can't tell you the exact scene, but there were a couple of times where either we were losing the light or something had to be adapted because we weren't going to make our schedule. And so we couldn't go just by what was in the script, like Tony and Harvey, and they'd be scrambling to try to make something work within the time that we had. And that was the only time it got more difficult, because there was that sense of like, what are we all doing, right? And how are we going to get this done? Because the on-time, on-budget thing was crucial. It wasn't like there was a cushion. So I think that was the only thing that was hard. I mean, the horror scenes, all that, they weren't hard, as you just commit to it. So I don't see one as being harder than the other. Once you prepare for it and you commit to it, there's almost like, for me as an actor, there's the joy in finally getting to actually express it, right? After you do your homework and preparation, then it's like there's this flow through that always feels really good, no matter what the scene is. So I think it was hardest when there was either indecision or scrambling, and that happened a couple of times. It was the first lead in a movie that I had, so it was a great way for me, right, low-budget horror film, how to carry a movie, and just not feel like there were super high stakes. Not that I would have probably known the difference, but I think the fact that we were all just sort of young and doing this for the first time, it's really interesting how it has that like first time, right, we're really in this together. It's not slick at all, and there's an appeal.